everybody, welcome to another global video hop. My name's Jo and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator from the UK. Today we're going to be showing you some projects using the brand new in colours. So let's just have a quick look at those colours because they are really gorgeous. Sometimes in colours take a while to grow on you, and I think some of those might be in that category, but I have to say since I've been playing with them they've grown on me really quickly. So let's have a look. So we've got Boho Blue, which was always going to be a winner with me because I love all the blues and it's perfect for things like baby cards and things like that. We've got a Moody Mauve, which is sort of a it's not really mauve as I would call it, but it's a really lovely sort of vintagey mauve. It's really gorgeous. We've got Pebbled Path, which I describe as neither brown nor grey. It's kind of in between. It's a strange one that changes with the light, but it's brilliant for again sort of vintagey sort of looks. We have Copper Clay, which is pretty much as it says. It is like a coppery sort of clay colour. And then we have one called Wild Wheat. Now this is the controversial one because from what I've heard, a lot of people are not very keen on this colour initially. But it does grow on you. It's definitely a grower. It's one of those colours that's kind of, it looks a bit dirty almost, and it's been described as some quite horrible things, I will be honest. But actually it's got really good, lovely gold undertones. So it really brings out those lovely tones if you're wanting something like that. So don't give up on it because it will grow on you, I promise. So these are our in colours. If I just lean over and grab the twine. So these are the in colour jute trim. So again, this is in all of those colours. This is quite thick, but it splits down really nicely and creates some really lovely effects. So we're going to be using that as well today. And the other part of the in colours I'm going to be using is these beautiful dots. Now these are called just simply in colour dots, and as you can see you've got your 5 in colours there. But what's nice about them is they've got a really nice shine to them. They change as you move, so they're kind of got like 2 tones, but also they're quite flat. So if you're thinking about postage, they're actually really good for that because they're actually quite flat. So they give you that sparkle without the bulk. So loving those. So I have pre-prepared quite a lot of what I'm going to make today, purely because there's quite a lot of elements in it, and I wanted to be able to sort of spend some time just going through sort of have it put together, and also how I did some of the colouring that I've done today. So you'll be pleased to know it's not actual colouring, it's colouring with our stamps and ink. So there's no brushes involved, it's all Stampin', but it's quite tonal. So let me bring in the project. So this is our little project today. So this is using a stamp set called Gone Fishing. Now don't ask me why I was attracted to this because I don't fish, I know nothing about fishing, but it was just something about this really drew me in, and I think part of it may have been the coordinating dies that went with it, particularly these outside pieces which create a tackle box. So I just loved it, and I think I was really drawn to it. As I say, don't ask me why because I'm not really sure, but I did really like it. So that's what we're using. So here is my little tackle box. Now I wanted to create a card which actually opened like a tackle box. So as you can see, it lifts open and that creates our card inside. So there's a little bit of fussy cutting involved in this, but I'll show you. I'm going to be using a craft knife because that's my preference, but you could use scissors if you wanted to. And I'm going to make it in a slightly different colour this time as well, just so we get a slight difference. You can have a look and see what you think, see how you like them. So this is Pebbled Path, and today I'm going to be using the copper clay. So my actual tackle box is going to be in copper clay, and I made my base in vanilla because I thought it was just a nice contrast and it made decorating the inside that much easier. I didn't have to put another layer in or anything like that. Okay, so let's get started. So as you can see, what I've done is I have cut 2 of these tackle box lids sort of insert pieces. Now the reason I've cut 2 is because I wanted to add a little bit of depth to my card here. Now I didn't want to create a lot of depth because we're talking about postage, but it just gives you that kind of shadow. And these pieces that it cuts out of the middle here, don't throw those away because they're brilliant as well. So there we go. I'm going to start off now by gluing these 2 sections together. So just take a little bit of time. You probably are going to need wet glue for this unless you've used some kind of our sticky sheets. So you are going to need wet glue. Just be really careful with it. Don't put too much on. We don't need a great deal. I'm just adding a little bit along all of the edges and the bits in the middle. Make sure it's up the right way. And I'm just going to join them together. So it's literally just creating just a tiny bit of depth. I don't want masses. I just want it to be just that tiny bit of depth. Okay. Also, it makes it stronger as well, which is great. So I've cut another piece of copper clay card, and this one measures 10 centimetres by 13 centimetres. It's just a little bit too wide, but it was easier rather than give you a silly measurement to work to. So it's just that little bit bigger, and we'll trim it as we go. So I'm just going to glue this onto the back of my copper clay plain piece. So what I want to make sure is that my hinges at the top line up with the very top of my card, and one edge also line up nicely. Okay, now I had a little bit of a glue seepage there. Now our glue is repositionable glue. So what that means is that once you put the glue on and you allow it to dry so it goes clear, then it will become tacky. So you'll see some of the elements I've created today, I've already put the glue on and I've allowed it to dry, especially things like these little hooks. But I'll explain that to you as I go through, because they're so fiddly that you really do need to sort of pre-glue them. So although I've gone up to this edge, I can see I have still got a really fine edge, which I'm just going to cut off. Okay, and I'm using scissors for this part because I don't need to be quite so precise for this bit, because this isn't my actual card, this is going on front of my card. As I say, these colours, if you're not a great fan initially, they will grow on you, I promise. And as I say, I've really taken to wild wheat. I'm not sure why there's been a lot of negative vibes about it, because I really like it. But I think it's one of those colours in small accent pieces actually works brilliantly. Because some colours, I think, just are a bit too much sometimes on their own, but when they're mixed and you have that little border or a little element in that colour, it actually really pops, and I think it's definitely one of those. Now you can see as I'm doing this, I'm just turning it slightly, allowing my scissors just to go underneath that very edge. Just makes it that much easier. I don't need to be overly precise with this. And then just cut off the corner. There we go. So that is my topper done. So now I need to attach it to my card. So I have my card here, and I have cut this so it is 10 centimetres deep instead of our usual 10.5, and I've also cut it at 13 across. So that would have been 20 scored at 10, and then it's 13 across again, and we're going to trim this when we stick this on. So as I say, this is a little bit smaller than our normal card, but it fits lovely into our envelopes still. It's just a little bit shorter, that's all. Because if I show you the dies, there is an outside one here. but this is just too wide for our cards here in the UK, so it doesn't fit properly on our cards. It just doesn't look quite right. So it's for this card I specifically wanted to make it with this topper, so that's why I haven't used that part on the outside, but that will make a terrific box, so that's for another day, but we'll worry about that then. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to glue this down. If you don't want to use the extra layer as I did, and you don't have to, I just used it because I liked the way that it sort of gave that depth. So again, I just need to make sure that my top hinges are connected to the fold, and I'm going to move this so it's definitely in line with my left edge here. And you can see I've got a bit of excess here which we'll cut off in a moment. Okay, so we'll let that just stick for a moment. I'm just going to bring in my little cutting mat. And I'm going to grab my craft knife, and now what I want to do is to very carefully, I'm going to use my craft knife, and because you've got this edge, you can just run your craft knife down that edge, and don't try and go around the corner at this stage, just literally go in one direction. Okay, so you're going through 2 layers, remember, so you need to be a little bit tougher with it maybe. And you can see I've got these little right angles here. We'll get rid of those in a moment, but concentrate first of all in just getting the bulk of our excess off. Oh, sticking to my fingers. And again, I'm just using the edge because that's sort of a millimetre thick, or even a little bit, 1.5 millimetres maybe. You've got a little bit to play with, so don't worry too much. So I'm going to come down here again. So it's quite simple to remove. Now I can have a look at these corners, and I'm just going to run my knife around those corners. You might need to do it 2 or 3 times just to take off any little nicks in the corners. But it's quite simple, it does come away. Now, as regards to the top, it is entirely up to you whether you want to leave it with that vanilla or whether you want to cut it away like I've done. I'm going to cut mine away because I think it just gives that overall effect, but I understand if you'd like to just leave that part. Again, just come around that corner. So it doesn't take many moments. You could use scissors for this if you wanted to. You'd have to be a little bit more careful, but scissors is fine also. This is probably the hardest bit in the middle because you just need to make sure that you're going through both layers and right into those corners. Okay, so that's all our knife cutting done, so I don't need to worry about that now. So I'm just going to open my card, and you can see like here my corner's not quite rounded. I've got a little square bit there, so I'm just going to round that off a little bit, but don't worry too much. Quite happy with that, that's fine. Okay, so let's have a look at the inside first of all. So what I did on the inside of my card was I stuck some of the DSP. Now this is the DSP that coordinates with, I've got a little tray here with all my bits on ready, look, that coordinates with our the actual stamp set and everything, so it's all part of the same set, and it's really beautiful, the DSP. Again, that's for another day. So I've just cut a strip of this, what looks like netting, and I've just cut it a little bit longer, and I think it's about 2.5 centimeters. I didn't actually measure it, I just kind of eyeballed it really, but it is about 2.5 centimetres wide. I'm just going to glue that to the bottom. And what I did is I did it level with that bottom edge. I didn't worry about this piece sticking out here. Okay, I'll let that dry for a minute and then I'll trim off the ends. I've got a new blade on my trimmer and it's giving me some really raised edges. There we go. Okay, so I'll trim that in a second. But the first thing I want to do is to stamp a couple of the fish. So as I say, I've done all my elements for my card already. I've got them ready to go so that you can see how they go together. But I wanted to show you just a couple of the actual stamping and how I got the different colours on the actual fish and things like that. So let me put that over there for a moment. So I'm going to start off with Pebbled Path. And as I say, this is a lovely sort of grey browny colour. It kind of takes on either colour really. So it's quite a nice alternative to a black outline because it's quite dark, but it's also a lot softer than black. So I just got 2 little fishes there. So that's my Pebbled Path. And then I'm going to do, I've done these 2 the same, but I'll do 2 different ones to show you. So I'm going to start off with Boho Blue and Moody Mauve. And I'm going to start off by inking my fish inside. Sounds awful, doesn't it? In Boho Blue. And then I'm just going to rock the bottom section in Moody Mauve. Okay. Now you can see I get a really strong line across that, which I don't want. So I've got a little bit of sponge and I'm just going to sponge across where they 2 join. And what will happen is they'll 2 will blend together a lot better. So I'm going to try and line this up. It's really difficult when you're on camera because I can't see over the top. So we'll give it a go, fingers crossed. There we go. Oh, that's not so bad. Not so bad. Okay, so that's that. Now this time I'm going to bring in another colour. So I'm just going to stamp off to get the rest of my colour off my stamp. And I'm going to go with Wild Wheat to start with. Okay, I'm going to rock it in Moody Mauve at the bottom again. And I'm going to rock the top in Boho Blue. Sorry if you just heard my doggy then. Okay, so I've done the 3 colours this time. And then I'm just going to use my clean sponge and just tap over the top just lightly to remove those colours. And I'm going to try and line it up again. There we go. So you can see I've got 2 different coloured fish in there. So just mix in those colours because fish are obviously come in all different colours, don't they? And they've always got that sort of almost like scaly, holographic-y look to them. Now on that note, actually let me just glue my other piece into the middle. So I just wanted to bring in a 3rd item because we always like 3s. So there we go. So what I did actually with my fish, and I'm not sure it's going to show up on camera, but I actually added a bit of Wink Stella to the fish. Now that made it look like that holographic-y sort of look. Always get a dry throat when I'm recording. So I don't know how well you can see that, but what it does do, it just gives it that little sheen. I'm just going to take a sip of water. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is just trim off this paper on the back. And again, I'm going to go in a straight line first, and then I'm going to tackle the corner. It's a lot easier than trying to turn your scissors around a corner. So this time I'm going to go around the corner first, and then I'm going to take a straight line up that side. Okay, so that's the inside of our card done. So now what I want to do is to add my sentiment. So on this one I used silver heat embossing. I'm going to, do I stick with silver or do I stick with white? I think we'll do silver again. So this will warp a little bit when I do this part, so just be aware of that, but it will sort of settle down again once I've done it. So I'm just going to get my little dust buddy just to make sure that I've got no grease in the little hole. I'm going to grab my Versamark and my sentiment. I'm going to make this another happy retirement. Okay. Some really nice fonts in this set as well, which is really nice. So I think my silver has managed to get a little bit of glitter in it at some point. So we've got a little bit of sparkle going on as well, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm just going to heat emboss this now. Okay, so as you can see, it has warped a little bit, but that will settle down. Once it cools down, that'll be fine. So we'll just keep going on here. So I'm going to start off with my fish. So as I say, I've pre-prepared quite a lot of this so that you can see exactly how I've put it together. Now, there's dies for all of these elements. I won't lie, they are a little bit fiddly, but I found just by using a little bit of washi tape to hold my dies in place, made them fine to use. Now, the one that's the worst is this one here. This is quite difficult to line up, but provided you get that little bit through the, you can see that through the hole, and you can see that tip through the hole, everything else falls into place. Took me a few cuts to realise that. So I'm going to stick my fish on first. So I've just used multi-purpose glue for that. And then I'm going to use dimensionals just to stick the second one on, just to give it that depth again. I'm going to do it exactly the same so that you can see how it was put together. Now this one is, this part is I've cut from silver foil. And on the same die you get this, it's like an upside down heart. So I've popped that on there, and that's in Moody Mauve. And then I've cut the hook out in silver. Now you can see how fine that hook is. So what I've done is I put a little bit of blob of glue on my desk, and I sort of tapped the tip of the actual thing and put it on. But what I have done is I've added some glue to the back of it, just at this point here. So I want to make sure that that point goes over this little bar, and that will stop it flapping around so that it's not going to catch on anything. So I'm going to stick that first, and then stick. Now that's going to hold. So although I'd put the glue on a little while ago, it's held really nicely, and you won't get all sticky mess. So this little flight, is it? I'm not sure what they're called. I should learn the name, shouldn't I? You can tell I don't fish. Okay, so then we have these little boys. I think they're probably like little mini buoys for or floats, maybe floats. So what I've done is I've cut those in silver. I just thought it added that extra silver to my piece. So this time I want to use some thread. Now I used on the original one, I used Pebbled Path because it kind of went in with that. I think copper clay might get a bit lost on here, so I'm thinking I might use some of course it'll be the one nearest the bottom, won't it? Or not quite. I'm going to use some of the wild wheat. Okay, so if I show you this, obviously it is quite thick, so you really don't want it that thick. So what we're going to do is split it down. So I'm just going to cut myself a piece. I don't know what's that. That's about 10 centimetres, something like that, thereabouts. And if you twist the end, you'll see that it starts coming apart and it comes in 3 pieces. So I'm just going to separate them. So I've got 1, 2, 3. And you can see actually that one is a lot thicker than the other 2. So they all vary slightly and the different colours vary as well. So just have a little play and do, you know, break them down and use them as you wish, really. So this one, very simply, I'm just going to wrap it round and create a loop. So it's easier when you're not on camera. Start that again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a glue dot. So I'm going to stick my end, I'm going to loop it, and then I'm going to loop it again. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my poker tool. I'm just going to grab another dot and pop it over the top. Stick into my nail. And then I'm going to stick the float over the top of that. Okay. And now I can lift that off. And then I can stick it wherever I want it to go. So that's that section done. So the next one we have the slightly larger buoy or float. I don't know. It's funny. So I'm going to pop that one on there. So this is Boho Blue. And then I've got another one of my little fishes here. Fishy floats. And this one's going to go across here. Now, as you can see in the original, I've got 2 little hooks here as well. Oh, I need another little glue dot under that. I'll do that in a moment. So these are the little hooks. So what I have done is I have added that glue to the back of those. So I don't know if you can see it shining, but now that glue is dry, it's just tacky. So it's not going to stick badly to anything. But what it will do, it will stick down. And because it is repositionable, if you wanted to, you could pick it up and move it. So it's a really great way for using really fine dies. It's just, if you can't think ahead, I know it's hard sometimes, and then you can glue them up before you start, and then you're good to go. So next, in the next section, we have another sort of buoy, hook, float. Get it right at the moment, won't I? Okay. So this time I'm going to need this little rope reel. I don't know. I'm giving up on the names. I don't know. So first of all, I'm going to repair this one because I realised I hadn't glued underneath. So I'm just going to pop a glue dot down here. Pop that one in place. Okay, done that. Right, okay, so what I did was I got my piece of thread and I'm going to tie it round the spindle. So I'm literally, it's probably easier actually to tie your knot first and then just poke it over the top and pull. Don't pull too tight because you don't want to break it, okay? And then I twisted my thread just to get it to the sort of place I wanted it to go. And then I kind of wrapped it around the back of my piece. And again, I'm just going to take a glue dot. I'm going to stick that onto the back. Okay. So that's just holding that in place. So now what I want to do is just to grab a dimensional which I'm going to pop on the back. Again, that will hold that in place. I'm going to position it where I want it. I do prefer it that way, like the other one. I'll rearrange my rope. And then this section here, I want my last weight to go over the top of. So I'm just going to pick that up onto a glue dot. And again, I'm going to position it in place. And then I can just trim the end off there. So let's clear the decks a little bit. And then I can bring in the other card for you. So here we have our 2 retirement cards. I can see I've got a little bit of embossing there, not quite. Can you see it's dull? Bear with me one moment. It's better. So that's a little tip. If you ever see a little dull section on your heat embossing, that means that it hasn't heat embossed. But if you go too far, it will also go dull. So just you know, bear it in mind. If you can see there's still grains on it, then you know it's not heated enough. But there we go. So that is our card for today, using the beautiful Gone Fishing stamp set, which I've moved. So here it is. So if you know someone who likes fishing, or you like fishing yourself, maybe you could give me the answers to all the names of all the pieces that I've been bluffing my way throughout. So this is Gone Fishing, and these are the Gone Fishing dies, and brilliant, absolutely brilliant suite of products. Highly recommend it if you like anything to do with fishing, or you know someone who does, because it's really versatile and you can do lots of different things with it. So I hope you like that today. I will be back no doubt in a few weeks' time, but enjoy all the other projects. I can't wait to see what everyone has been creating with these beautiful new in colours. Take care. Bye bye.